theory uh, start happening.
Okay. Oh, it appears as though we're on.
Right.
Take 15.
You have no idea. Christian, we're going to need you to fix this.
Big time. All righty. I feel like we've been gaslit by YouTube.
I know. You know what's really funny is that the 40 seconds of me sitting there came up on my screen when we went live.
Yes, it came up for me too. And then I saw the little live button and I hit that, and there we are talking randomly. Like, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Okay.
Talk about true and authentic people.
Oh my God. Yes, and in our defense, they've been changing the way it works. So every week when we go to do this, the steps are different. So maybe it's settled now. It's as easy as it's ever been. We just didn't know. So we were looking for extra steps.
All right. So let's do this again. From gaslighting to greed, with a little sprinkle of guilt and grief in between, this week's shows have been brought to you by the letter G. It ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Welcome to the weekly wrap-up Q&A of Healing from A to Z with Masterful You, me, and KB. I'm Judy Forder, or as my nephews, great nephews, will call me Judy the Great, and I am here with the glorious Miss
Chris Berg. Hi, everybody.
We're happy to finally be here.
Oh, wow.
Always a pleasure.
It's always good for a laugh, I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
Raise your vibration right away.
For this week, shall we say giggles?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in since we're running late already.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start with gaslighting. Yeah, I know. How can you tell the difference between a healthy disagreement and gaslighting?
You have to develop your discernment, actually. Because sometimes we think people are gaslighting us, or at least in my experience and working with, other people, sometimes you think people are gaslighting you like they know the truth. And sometimes they do. If somebody knows, if somebody said something to you, let's say, 3 days ago, and now you say to them, remember when you said that thing? And they say, I never said that. There is a chance that they are gaslighting you, that they actually do remember saying that and they won't own it. But the other possibility is that fight or flight kicked on, that they felt vulnerable, that they thought they didn't like the idea of themselves, the image of themselves as somebody who would have said that. They didn't want to be called out on it. And so it can be that their mind goes blank.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because we've talked about this topic, you and I, quite a bit. And the biggest thing for me is, yes, I have forgotten saying things as well.
Right.
And because of the awareness and the conversations we've had, now I say, I could have very well said that, and I don't remember.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's a different thing, especially because if somebody says something to you like, oh, I don't like what you're wearing, or, not my favorite outfit, or whatever, just some off the cuff comment.
Mhm.
That might really stick with you because it's an insult or criticism. And so you're like, whoa, you might grab onto that. Whereas the
Mhm.
other person, they might hand those out like candy all day long, right? You know? Or they may have just been in a bad mood at that moment.
Mhm.
And so the comment actually had nothing to do with you. It's just they had some angry energy coming up. You walked by and you were the target of it.
Yep,
Mhm.
you're the one that got it.
Yeah.
What's the first step to rebuilding trust in yourself after being gaslit?
It's interesting for me, it's been about really being clear about, am I gaslighting myself?
Mm. Yeah.
So I have to be honest with myself because I don't have control over whether or not other people are truthful with me. And so, but I can tell, I'm learning to be able to tell when somebody thinks they're being truthful with me.
Mhm.
And I guess that's the point in the gaslighting. You know, we live in a society that likes to blame people and point the finger. And so if people suspect that somebody is gaslighting or lying, manipulating, whatever, they may jump on that and say that's what they're doing and feel absolutely sure that's what's happening, right? And then feel vindicated and kind of being angry or whatever.
Mhm.
But I've started to realize that all I can really do is be honest with myself and get a sense of whether or not other people are being truthful or are they just in fight or flight. I heard somebody talking recently, actually, who used to work in the government and with psychological operations and whatnot. And he was saying that when you create enough cognitive dissonance in people, that they literally become unable to use rational thought. And so that's kind of what I'm saying too, is that when people get really confused and it all becomes this emotional soup that's just pushing their buttons and they're just trying to stay out of hot water, then, you know, a lot of times they'll just blurt things out and there's no thought behind it. It's completely unconscious. They're just saying whatever it is in the moment that history has proven is least likely to cause more of a problem in the moment, at least.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny because uh, discernment is the official term. I like to call it your bullshit detector.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you have it. You
Hmm.
have it whether you realize it or not, because you can feel the body has a different response to truth
Mhm.
than it does to everything else. And
Hmm.
we've been dealt so much of the everything else that we have lost touch with what the truth feels like.
Right.
And I think people are digging into that more and more. It's not so much, what do you think about that? It's how do you feel? How does
Yeah.
it feel in your body?
Yeah.
Because when something resonates and aligns as truth, you will feel it.
Hmm. Yes, it's interesting because I hadn't thought about this, but it's like the absence of um, defensiveness,
Mhm.
right? So when people are manipulating, gaslighting, there's there's offense.
Yeah.
When somebody tells the truth, they don't need to protect themselves. The energy isn't me against you, it's connection.
Yeah. It just is.
Yes.
Yeah. Gaslighting is usually turning every situation around to being your fault.
Right.
You responded to something that was done, and then you get shit because of the way you responded. It's
Right.
redirecting blame or something along those lines.
Right. Right.
When people are actively gaslighting, they're not taking responsibility. That's why I love the first thing we learn to do is wait a minute, am I gaslighting myself?
Right. Right. Because if somebody else is gaslighting us, and we don't want to think that. I mean, maybe it's somebody who's really close to you, important to you, and you don't want to think that they're gaslighting you intentionally, right? And so we might make excuses for them. This is a pattern that was alive and well in me and most of the people I knew for decades. we were always making excuses for people. Well, they can't help it, or they can't this, or they can't that. But it allowed that behavior of intentionally degrading other people, manipulating other people, gaslighting to perpetuate because they never got held accountable for it. And the other thing is, like, let's not even say holding them accountable, but actually recognizing what's happening and saying, I'm going to limit the amount of time I spend with somebody who has a hard time speaking the truth.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's been a big push recently, is there doesn't need to be drama.
No.
You don't have to make a grand announcement. I'm not going to spend time with you anymore because you gaslight. You simply withdraw your energy. You create distance.
Right.
You do what's best and healthiest for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, to be somebody, it's aggressive to actually point your finger and tell everybody that's the bad person. Exactly. I mean, that puts you in that position of being the aggressor, the predator that you're accusing the other person of being. So, there's something about saying the truth, acknowledge the truth of the situation, but you don't usually need to broadcast it to everybody else. And you just change your behavior as a result of it. If people gaslighting means all they get to do is spend time with other people who are gaslighting, there you go.
That's a choice.
That's a choice. Yeah. I mean, eventually they just, well, I can't believe anything anybody says. Well, look in the mirror.
Where's your truth?
Right.
Everything starts with you. Everything.
Yes. Yes. And we make excuses for ourselves for not telling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely true. And I remember that point of like, well, I have to say that because, if I told them the truth, then they're going to get upset with me. And God forbid that should happen.
Exactly. I don't want to make them angry.
Right. Right. Meanwhile, everybody's performing. And this is the performance that we're all talking about. The masks we wear, the performance, nothing being real. Is that when we're telling people what we think they want to hear so that we don't have to deal with their emotional response to it, we're either hanging out with the wrong people or we're not respecting ourselves enough.
Yeah. I saw, there's been a great meme, the wonderful memes that go around on social media. But it's one that every time I see it, I'm like, truth, baby. If you're withholding your truth to keep the peace for someone else, you're creating chaos within yourself.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that chaos will show up in your outside world.
Absolutely.
If it's inside, it'll show up outside.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so we touched on how to handle somebody who's gaslighting, like not in the moment when you're realizing, oh, well, those behaviors, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure I want to be exposed to that. But what happens if you're actively in a conversation and you realize you're being gaslit? What's something you can do to remove yourself from that experience?
Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do. And it's funny because do what feels most natural to you in the situation. But I know there are things you can do, like clearly this isn't a useful conversation right now, and you walk away. Right? And you see how the tone of it wasn't you, la la la. It's just acknowledging the truth. This is not a useful conversation right now. And you walk away. And sometimes, if you give people time to process what it is that you brought to their attention, they'll take the initiative to come back and they'll say, you know what, I've been thinking about it. And this did happen, or I did say that, and I'm really sorry, and whatever. And that can be genuine. But when people are caught off guard, all of us, our instincts kick on. So if you're finding, or we talk about it being in zone one, if you're finding that somebody's not being genuine with you and the energy starts to escalate a little bit, the best thing you can do is to say, I'm out of here right now. Let's talk about it later. And out of here can be, I'm walking into the next room to read a book or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're, I keep hearing you can simply say, oh, okay, I'm going to think about that for a while.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's true. You are going to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you are, and you might, there's a part of me that's like, I don't want them to think I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. Because it's kind of like, okay. And the truth, and that's why I said about say what's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those moments when I say, like, I'm no longer participating in this,
Mm-hmm.
I am actually energetically like from that situation right now. I'm going to go over there, going to be in my bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And when we re-engage later, we'll be there. But I'm not going to go over there feeding their energy, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to.
Right.
Not everybody does that. I would keep feeding them energetically,
Mm-hmm.
keep putting my attention into them energetically, and it would drain me. And they would actually get a sense of satisfaction from the fact that it was driving me crazy and eating me up inside.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, none of
Yeah.
that.
No, no, none of that.
No. When my daughter and I had to employ the timeout, and then we go to our own corners and get our shit together, basically. It was okay, you go think about it. I'm gonna go think about it, and we'll come back when we're calm and can
Yes,
discuss things.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, don't be afraid to exit a conversation where you're not feeling it is beneficial.
yeah. And like this isn't working for me. Like there are a million ways that you can say not now.
Mm-hmm.
Use as few words as you need to. You don't have to explain. And in fact, if you find yourself trying to explain, then you can be sure that you're in fight or flight in that moment.
Yep, absolutely.
That's when we try to defend ourselves and explain our way out of a situation. It's much better at that moment just to be like, not now. This isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Try later.
Perfect. Okay, to wrap up this part, what's one thing you wish you had known sooner about spotting gaslighting?
Hmm. All the things we've talked about.
All of it.
All of it. Yeah. I mean, I really wish I hadn't grown up with this idea of good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
Um, the idea that when people don't do what you want them to do, that makes them bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that that you should be angry with them because I was accumulating a lot of reasons to be mad at a lot of people. And then, putting them in my backpack and kind of dragging it along over the years. And I wish I'd really understood that sometimes gaslighting is intentional. And I know there are people all over the place who are like, I'm a narcissist and I gaslit people all the time on purpose. Makes them sound very smart. I mean, I think their ego really likes the idea that, wow, I was really very on top of every encounter I was having with people. I was, calculating how that situation was going to go. Maybe that was always true, but most of the people I've known who are gaslighting were wounded people who were highly insecure and were just trying to I thought was an unacceptable truth about themselves.
Yeah. Talk about looking at things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greater understanding of all that. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, we're going to move forward to guilt. Yeah. Why is it so hard to let go of guilt, even when we know we've done our best?
Hmm. There's some sort of security in it. And I think it's like good people drag their guilt around.
I'm hearing guilt and worry. Guilt
Yeah.
and worry are expressions of love.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're not.
They're not. They are not. If you think about doing something and you get a twinge of guilt, that's information that's saying, maybe I need to rethink this.
Mhm.
Maybe this isn't in my best interest. before you do something or before you say something, guilt can be helpful because it can keep you from, doing something that you then regret. Guilt is the clue. You're going to regret this,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if we've already said or done it, we can take responsibility for it,
Mm-hmm.
own the experience, as we always say, and be truthful with yourself. Don't gaslight yourself. Be truthful about what it was that happened, and then find out what was driving that behavior so that you can understand what happened and also not be forced to repeat it over and over again.
And that's the big thing right there. Know your why, change the behavior.
Yes.
Because otherwise, dragging that guilt around does not serve anyone.
No, it just sets you up for more situations where you feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I feel guilty and my vision of myself is that I'm a bad person.
I'm a bad person. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't do this right. I don't do that right. I'm guilty of all these things, blah, blah, blah. You know what? When I have a decision to make, I'm going to make a decision based on the fact that I see myself as somebody who's guilty. I'm
Mm-hmm.
guilty anyway, right? I'm just going to keep perpetuating that story I have about myself. If
Mm-hmm.
I have a story about myself that I'm a perfectly, normal, I don't like that word, but that I'm a human, a perfectly human, right? If I have that story about myself and I have a choice to make about doing something that I'm probably going to regret in a way that I'm probably going to regret, or doing something in a way that I'm going to feel good about it, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to do it in the way that I'm going to feel good about it
Mm-hmm.
because I see myself as learning and growing and, worth taking care of.
Yes. And I'm feeling like it's important to point out kindness and respect is baseline foundation for you.
Yes.
And that's something that you declared 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Everything you move forward doing will be done with kindness and respect.
Yes.
So when you say, when I'm thinking about how I'm going to do things, it's an unspoken that it's going to be done with kindness and respect for all involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I know that if I don't treat other people with kindness and respect, then I fall in my own perception of myself, my own sense of myself. It's like I don't feel as good about me
Right.
if I'm not the kind of person who wants win-win,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's just something that over the years I figured out. Like I feel better whenever I approach something and say, how can this work for everyone involved? Or take myself out of the situation and say, what would work for the other person isn't something that will work for me.
Right.
Right? Kindness and respect does not mean doing what people want.
No.
It means being honest and respectful in communicating your own wants and needs and discovering the other person's wants and needs and figuring out together whether or not that works, whether or not there's an opportunity for doing something together.
Yes. And when you made that declaration 3 years ago, the first person you made sure you were treating with kindness and respect was you.
Yes.
That's when truth and integrity fell into place.
Right.
Because you refused to live any other way.
Right. Right.
And that's huge. That's huge. When you're living in kindness and respect with truth and integrity, guilt is something that I don't even think even crosses your mind anymore because of that truth that you're living in and the
Right.
kindness and respect that you're treating yourself and other people with. That you're coming from this heart-centered space.
I do. Well, it's interesting too, because sometimes things will pop up, like maybe my horses have burrs in their hair and my arm was broken. I broke my wrist last year. And so I couldn't get the burrs out of their manes for a while. And I had to talk myself through it because it was like, oh, my poor horses, they've got burrs. But it would have been stressful to have somebody else that they didn't know come to take the burrs out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really did, but I got into that truth and integrity and was like, what's the best way through this? And it was like, you know what? The horses are okay with the burrs. You're the one who's not.
The horses don't care.
They didn't really care. Yeah. And actually, they kind of ended up rubbing them off on places. And by the time I was in a position where I could actually get every last burr out, there weren't many left.
Mm.
So that kind of worked out. But I realized I was asking myself, like, what is this feeling of guilt? I'm not doing enough. And that's leftover social programming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are people going to think when they see burrs? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I hear people saying, like, oh, I remember a friend of mine asking the vet, does everybody brush their horses every day? And the vet was like, no. Everybody is not doing that, but everybody would want you to think that they do. Like if you ask them, they would want you to think so. And this is part of that gaslighting thing,
Mm-hmm.
is that we might feel guilty about something and then we get asked about it and it's like we want to cover it up, right? I don't want anybody to know that I don't brush them every day. That's a pretty good example because people might think, like, why would you feel guilty about that? What a silly thing. Most of the things that we feel guilty about, if we look at it from a different perspective, are not things to crucify ourselves for.
Which is perfect for the next question. Is there such thing as healthy guilt and toxic guilt?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there are things that we do. I guess I would think if I were to kill somebody or intentionally harm someone,
Mm-hmm.
um, that I would carry guilt about that.
Right.
And it would take me, I would be on quite a process of journey or of trying to process and come to grips with that and make amends and all of the other things that, on some level, when you do that, it's impossible to do.
Right.
But in other ways, there is forgiveness in the universe. We can find forgiveness in our hearts. And when we do, we become better people,
Mm-hmm.
better humans, right? Better for ourselves and better for everybody around us. And so that journey is worth taking. And I think that is in my mind, right? And this, everybody has to make their own decision about that. But in my mind, that would be a healthy guilt.
Okay.
And toxic guilt would be just blaming yourself. And I used to do this, so I know a lot about it. Taking all of the things that didn't work out the way you thought they would
Mm-hmm.
and carrying them along as mistakes with regret and feeling guilty about it to the point that you get weighed down and you're afraid to try new things
Mm-hmm.
because every time you think about trying something new, even something that's exciting to you, you just keep going through everything that you've dragged along. Well, you thought that was going to work and that was a mistake. And what about this? And nothing you try works out. And that kind of guilt that keeps you from living and growing, that is toxic and to be avoided.
Yeah. Toxic is stifling. It prevents you from, yeah. Yeah. It's funny because a big, my mom carried a lot of guilt and all that kind of stuff. And when I started the healing journey and was looking back, reflecting back on me as a mother, and I've spoken on the podcast a lot about, the rage I used to have. The only safe emotion I felt I could express was anger.
Mm.
So no matter what I was feeling, it was always coming out as anger.
Yeah.
And I started doing this healing work and thought, oh my God, I'm destroying my daughter. How much guilt can I carry? Because for the first 7 years of her life, I was a raging lunatic and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And that was guilt that I now look at like, well, I was doing the very best I could with what I had. My tools were limited.
Yes. Yes.
And it doesn't make sense for me to carry this guilt and shame, which it was always accompanied with shame, because that doesn't serve her and it doesn't serve me.
No.
All I can continue to do is continue to work on me and work on this whole humaning experience. How
Right.
can I show up and be a more complete human?
Right. 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 Yeah, I had a lot of guilt. I imagine most mothers do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even most parents, I don't know, but I had a lot of guilt about the fact that while I was raising my kids, I was trying to find out who I was and find a way of navigating life in a happy, healthy way. And it seemed like I just kept finding blind alleys and putting my hand on hot stoves and, all kinds of things. And what's interesting, when I finally got to a point, like I carried that guilt and I would tell them I'm so sorry that that I didn't come out of the womb knowing everything that I know now, kind of thing. And I tortured myself with it. And at some point I said to them, you know what? I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to let that go. And an interesting thing happened. And it was like, it would be great if you could also, you know, let that go too. But
Right.
that's beyond my control. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to stop beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because then it started coming the appreciation. And the like, you taught us to always go after your dreams, to never give up, to live life your way, to not listen to what other people say because they don't know what it is that you need. And, so all of these things about independence and all of that, which, and I would say, you got that from me? And they're like, yeah, I mean, obviously, but they weren't able to tell me that when I was carrying all of this guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing what happens when you forgive yourself
Yes,
and start appreciating the person you were that
right.
survived all that and got you to here.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Um,
And we start to see the brilliance. I don't know, if you start looking back over your life path and you think about where you were in certain points when something new came along,
mhm,
when a new idea popped into your head and you're like, oh yeah, I went and did that and look what I learned from that. And then that opened the door to this other thing. And then I, had this experience and then I'd had enough of that. And then this other thing came along. I was looking back on it in the last few days and actually realizing like I was in a state of fear through all of that and like, oh my God, I have to, striving, like I'm in the wrong place. This isn't working. I need more. How do I get to the next level? All of that kind of stuff. And when I look back on, I'm like, I was always exactly where I was supposed to be.
mhm,
The only thing was that I had no faith. I didn't trust myself and I didn't trust life's process.
mhm,
So I was in a state of panic. And because I was in fight or flight, I did the things that I wouldn't do today.
mhm. Yeah, and recognizing that we were birthed into this world living in survival mode,
Yes.
and it was encouraged, and that's the way we have been living. And we made a conscious choice to look at ourselves and take responsibility for what the hell we're thinking and doing.
Right.
And in that, we've been able to find peace.
Right.
And we are making the intentional, conscious choice to make peace a priority.
Right.
And if you make that in your life too, everything starts to shift.
Yeah.
Everything starts to shift.
It does. And, there's a great book, Mother Hunger,
Mm-hmm.
that I highly recommend that talks about how we actually get our emotions from our moms. And so moms, I know we're all going to cringe, but they just get passed along through the family from one generation to the next until we learn how to shift kind of the set point of the emotions. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to find out that if we were born into a family where mom or grandma were in fight or flight, where they didn't feel really secure and comfortable in their skin, then that was our starting point, not neutral.
Mm-hmm.
but actually this sense of anxiety and insecurity.
Right. That makes total sense.
It does.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we feel complete with guilt?
Yes. Yes. No more guilt, people. No
No
more
more
guilt.
guilt. All
And
right.
don't go, doing things that you should feel guilty about. Boom.
Kindness and respect.
Yes.
If that is what you move forward in, kindness and respect, there will be nothing intentionally that you have to feel guilty about.
That's right. That's right. Kindness and respect for yourself and others, but
Yeah,
always for yourself first.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the big one because a lot of us people pleasers treat everybody with kindness and respect except for ourselves.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Moving on to grief.
Hmm.
Grief. What's one myth about grief you wish people understood?
Yeah, I think the important one is that grief is personal,
Hmm.
right? So there's this myth that there are situations in which people should feel sad,
Hmm.
and there are situations in which people should not feel sad, and the other people know what those situations are, right? I mean, I know for me, I was divorced and I was brokenhearted about being in a marriage that I didn't want to be in
Hmm.
long before I asked for a divorce. And the idea was, well, you shouldn't be able to grieve that, right? And you and I have talked about this
Yep.
similar. Yeah.
Yep.
Other people have come along and it's like, yeah, but I asked for it, so I couldn't. I literally remember giving myself 24 hours, a weekend, actually. My husband left. I asked him to leave, and he did.
Hmm.
And I said to myself, okay, kid, you've got until Monday. Seriously, this was like Thursday or Friday or whatever it was. It's like you've got until Monday to get your shit. Like you're allowed to be sad. I had this conversation with myself. You're allowed to be sad. You can cry. You can lose your, shit,
Hmm.
whatever. But Monday morning, you need to wake up and you need to be over this, like ready to move forward. Mhm.
It's pretty cool that you were able to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great conversation to have with myself. And to be honest, when I got up on Monday morning,
Uh-huh.
I was highly functioning. But
Highly.
that's what I did because that was my pattern of stuffing the emotion. Like my emotions made other people uncomfortable. And when other people got uncomfortable, they got angry.
Hmm.
So I had learned to stuff my emotions. And it's like, okay, I'm going to process a little bit of this because it was overwhelming.
Hmm.
And it's like, and it's good. Then it's going in the trunk in the basement of my subconscious mind, never to come up again. Like I will not feel this going forward. And the way I was able to do that is that I had practiced that.
Hmm.
And you know what? When we went into this healing process, um, it came up. I
Imagine
mean,
that.
yeah, it came up. That grief was still there. And it had not been processed. And I remember saying at different times in my life, like if I ever started crying, like really crying,
Hmm.
I wouldn't be able to stop.
Yep.
And I've heard a lot of people say that.
I was gonna say, I'm positive you are not the only one.
No, I mean, it's that feeling of, and sometimes like it can be something sweet in a movie or, something that doesn't even seem related. And all of a sudden the tears
Hmm.
start flowing. When you've got tears just under the surface and it just takes the littlest thing to like poof, to bring them to the surface, you've got unprocessed grief. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. There's no time limit on how long you're supposed to feel sad about something. The point is that once we understand the grief has to be processed in order to leave our bodies. As long as it's in our bodies, it's affecting how we feel and how we live, right? So when you no longer want to carry this grief, and hey, somebody really close to you suddenly is gone from your life, you may you may want to spend 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 3 years. I don't know what your number is, but there may be some period of time when you're like, I'm going to sit in my sadness because that feels right to me.
Hmm.
That's fine. Just know that when you're ready to live again, to really live again, to engage and to heal, that grief needs to be processed. And when it gets processed and released, you will have new energy for the next phase of your life.
Yes. And it's not to say that you will not experience sadness moving forward, periods of grief moving forward.
Hmm.
Now, all emotions are meant to be fluid,
Sure.
you know?
There's a difference between I'm sad about something that's happening now,
Hmm.
and the sadness and what's happening now is connected to all of the sad things that have happened in my life that I've never released.
Yes, huge difference.
Hmm.
Huge difference. It's funny when, because again, I said my go to emotion was anger.
Right.
So grief and crying was not a thing.
Right.
And when I started, you know, digging inside, I literally had to watch movies. If I was feeling that way, like the tears were right there, I had to watch movies that I knew would make me cry so that I could get it started,
Yeah.
you know, priming the pump.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And you know, I eventually got to the point where I didn't need that. I could openly cry when needed and felt. But yeah, it was funny how I had to, it's like the movie or whatever gave me permission
Right.
to then cry because it's okay. It's a movie. People cry at movies. It's all right.
Right. And it's funny you say that. Do you remember when I started going to sort of business, community business meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and I would cry
Mm-hmm.
while I was speaking,
Yep.
right? And I would say to people, because I was speaking my truth in a group of people in an environment where I knew that my truth was going to make a lot of people uncomfortable at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was giving myself permission to do that. And it brought tears through. I mean, I would stand there crying and I would be on Zoom or I would be there in person and I would say, don't pay any attention to the tears. It's just a natural expression of how I'm feeling right now. And I would keep speaking. And over time, it was really wonderful because I no longer was afraid of whether or not I would cry. Eventually, I kind of ran out of tears. I mean, I don't mean that there aren't more, but I mean, I didn't cry every time I stood up for myself and spoke my truth,
Mm-mm.
right? Eventually, that reservoir kind of dried out. And when other people would start crying, I would be like, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Good job releasing.
Yep.
Way to be human. Yay.
Yeah, it's not that the reservoir ran dry, it's that you got comfortable speaking your truth.
Yes.
We
And
talked about
the
the
repressed, and it's more I like the repressed stuff eventually, yeah, processed through.
yes.
There's probably more. I don't know. I don't want to know in this moment.
Laughing, the, there's always more.
I know.
I loved that you said there's no timeline for grief. Everybody grieves in their own way. And a very interesting thing, back when we were doing Journeys with Judy, we interviewed this woman named Terry, and she plays the cello. She's a professional musician,
Hmm.
and but she took a course after her husband died that talked about how no matter what the grief is, the source of the grief, the body responds the same.
Hmm.
So it's very much a physical process that the body goes through as well.
Hmm.
And I don't think enough people understand that the physical and the emotional are attached. So it's not just one or the other, it's the two together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. That,
Yeah, and the thoughts, when you're grieving, your thoughts are going to tend to be heavy.
mm-hmm.
You're not going to wake up in the morning and say, "Yay, it's Friday, let's go get ice cream." I mean, that's just not a thought when your body and your emotions are in a grief state.
No. And I remember walking out of the hospital the day my mother died and just passing people and driving back home and doing all of the things and thinking, how the fuck are these people doing this? My mother just died.
Right.
My world stopped.
Right.
The rest of the world did not.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Patience with yourself, kindness and respect for yourself and your process. I mean, all the things we're talking about, really staying away from the shoulds. There are no shoulds. Just really getting clear with yourself about what it is that you need in the moment, and then giving yourself permission to have that thing, because you're going through grief is trauma. It's a form of trauma. And the thing is, whether you're getting divorced or you're changing homes, or a mom just died, whatever those things are, you've been traumatized by this experience. And we need to allow ourselves the time to process it. And everybody processes differently.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to be, and Judy happens to be, like, we're pretty quick processors. We're fire signs. Like, we tend to like move through. Once we realize what it is, it can take years. Both of us would say decades, right? Before we're like, oh, now I know what that thing is. But then, exactly. But then once we see it, we're just like, boom, gone. Other people, might see the thing that's getting in their way, or know what it is that they need to do to get back on even footing.
Mm-hmm.
And they might just need to take more time getting there. So, like, I see it, but I'm not ready to go there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in between. There's every possibility in between, and many that don't even lie in that spectrum. So just giving yourself permission to be who you are and need what you need,
Mm-hmm.
and not beat yourself up for it.
Amen. Amen. Continue checking in with you. Because if you can find that still, you get the answers.
Yes.
What do I need now? What do I need today?
Mm.
And sometimes it could be you sit on the couch in your PJs all day and sip hot cocoa and watch Hallmark movies. Whatever.
Right. Right. And the point of that is without the guilt.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing. Without the guilt.
Yeah.
The shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Yeah. If you do it with guilt, you don't heal.
No.
The guilt actually keeps you from processing the grief energy. You don't start to feel lighter because you're shoving it all down and saying, I shouldn't be feeling any of this. I shouldn't be doing any of this. And you like freeze the energy in your body and in your mind.
Literally. It
Mhm.
freezes.
Yes.
Man. How can rituals or traditions help in the grieving process? It's funny, you and I had to talk about this back in July.
We did. We did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll lead into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we had this conversation because my mother died in July.
Mhm.
And then the evening before, there was it was a trauma. It was she was supposed to be coming home the next day, took a drastic turn. So my body is still holding some of that cell memory. And I mentioned to Chris the night before her actual death, my body starts to gear up and I can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And some years, nothing. Other years, it's really bubbling and moving. And Chris offered up some delicious perspective about how, we tend to focus on the death date. And she made a decision a long time ago to focus on what?
The life dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, doesn't that sound nice?
I had forgotten about that. Yeah. Yeah. But that is not, when somebody remembers a death anniversary, everybody's like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? 365 and a quarter days a year are hard
Mhm.
when you've lost someone that was really central in your life, in your heart.
Yes.
So that one day to kind of carry that, like we have to feel extra sad on this day,
Hmm.
feels like we're in denial the other 363 days,
Yes.
right?
Yes. It's funny because I said something to Laura about our conversation, my little sister, and she was like, oh, I feel awful. I totally forgot. And I was like, that right there. Why? Why do you have to feel awful?
Right.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
No, that's the guilt thing. That's the toxic guilt thing. When we say, oh, I should live my life around all these landmines. Like
Yes.
I can't forget any date that's, from years ago that I suffered on. What is that? Every time you think of your mom, and I will guarantee you think of your mom every single day,
Every single day.
right? Every time you think of her, that's an act of love,
Hmm.
right? And there's a little bit of sadness there, and there's love there, and there's celebration there, and there's a whole mix of things. Why do we have to strip that down to let's just all be very dark and heavy on this day every
Yeah.
year? No, no.
And it's the last thing my mother would want.
Right, of
The
course.
very last thing she would want for any of us.
Right. Right. I mean, just imagine your parent. I mean, some people this would bother probably, but just imagine your parent like coming into your home when you're just sitting there being miserable and they're kind of like,
What are you doing?
yeah, what's this? Right? You think this is in some way making things better for me? I don't want to sit here watching. Like, I'm with you anyway. Get out there and do something fun so that I can experience it with you.
Exactly. Funny. Mom loved crabs. You know, we're from Maryland. My mom loved crabs. So for the longest time, we'd get together around, the date, and we would all eat crabs
Mm,
to celebrate mom. And then, more kids and kids got older and things like that. And we haven't been able to do that in a while. But
mm,
yeah, that was always fun. That was
yeah,
something we all look forward to. And like,
yeah.
that was something mom was 100% on board with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those are things that we can do on people's birthdays too,
Hmm. Absolutely.
right? I mean, not that you have to shy away from the date when they left. It's just we don't have to carry it like a cross.
Mm-mm.
There's so much more to a person than the day they left.
Yes. Yes. And it's funny. I'm like, okay, we've been focusing a lot on losing a person, but you mentioned divorce, changing a job, leaving a house, things like that. Everybody, like you said, experiences things differently, and
Mhm.
grief is grief. And I
Yeah.
think the whole point of them having me say, the body responds to grief in the same way. It doesn't matter what's caused it. Grief is grief.
Yes. And you know what? When your self-image or your identity changes,
Hmm.
you can experience that grief also. So just the loss, like I remember when I started noticing things in the world
Hmm.
and being like, I never noticed that before. That's kind of peculiar.
Yes.
Um, I went through a grieving process, realizing that the world that I thought I lived in just wasn't the way I thought it was. Um, there was a lot of grieving that happened. It started with intense fear.
Yeah.
And then over time, it became sadness. The more I was like, oh, I can't, you can't unsee what you see.
No.
And then I just became really sad because all of the things that I really had loved and appreciated and kind of tried to aspire, I guess, to build my life around turned out to be, pretty hollow.
Hmm. Yeah. And I feel like that, a lot of people are waking up to that right now.
Mm,
What they once thought to be 100% truth isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
So we definitely do go through a grieving process,
Hmm.
because there's safety in knowing 100% truth.
Right.
And then for that to be like, things are getting blurry here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we can be sure of is anytime there are two sides who are disagreeing, two or more sides who are disagreeing about an issue,
Mm-hmm.
truth is absent.
Yeah.
Because if the truth were present, it can't be denied.
Mm-mm.
The truth is the truth is the truth. People can try to shut down the truth, but they won't have a leg to stand on because when we hear truth, we know it. We're like, oh, that makes sense,
Yep.
right? All of a sudden, the penny drops. We're like, yeah, that makes sense. All of the rest of it doesn't. That does. So until the truth is present, everybody just argues and, about which gaslighting or which lies are more right than the
Yeah.
other lies.
And it's
Once
all
the,
distraction.
yes.
It's all a distraction to divide with the intention to divide, which draws you further and further from the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the last question for grief.
Hmm.
And I don't be interesting. I'm interested to hear. I'm interested in all your answers. But what's the most helpful thing someone can say or not say to somebody who's grieving?
Yeah, it's helpful to tell people that you're sorry, that you're thinking of them, that you're there if they just want to talk or cry or sit silently, um, and that you'll respect their space. That you really want them to communicate with you what it is that they need.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowed to change their minds as time changes,
Mm-hmm.
and that you will not take where they are personally. So they don't have to worry about you and your emotions. You're there to help them to navigate theirs.
Yeah, they don't have to perform for you.
Mm-mm.
That was a very interesting thing when my mother died because she was younger and we all have a lot of friends and she had ton of people. And what all four of us siblings found was we were comforting others.
Yeah,
The whole viewing thing. I don't agree with how we do death anyway,
yeah,
but the viewings, we were hugging more crying people and comforting them than anybody did for us.
yes, yes. It's a very private thing. I mean, it's great to have community around you.
Yes, absolutely.
But generally, we want those really close people who we feel okay having a snotty nose and,
Yes.
because you're going to have a snotty nose
Yep.
when you lose somebody
Mm-hmm.
or a situation happens that you're really sad about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want people around you that you feel like you can be yourself.
Yeah. The ugly cry,
Yeah.
the anger, all of it.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. So yeah, I love all those tips. Um, yeah, when my college roommate lost her son in a car accident when he was 18, and I didn't know what to do for her. I didn't know what to say, and there were so many people around her that I just kind of stuck back, took care of the food. Her little sister and I took care of all the logistics and all that kind of stuff because that was helpful.
It's huge.
And then just checking in with her, how can we help now? How can
Right.
and that can be overwhelming too, because first answer is, oh, no, I don't know, I don't even
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah. And that's a really good point. I mean, to do the things that are obvious.
Yeah.
And then not to require this person to turn into a manager in their own life because they're not in a position to be able to do it.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at
I mean,
all.
we know that's why food is always a great thing. Like when everybody shows up with food, great. Now you don't have to worry about cooking for a week because you can't.
Weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Or weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to. But here's the other thing I've heard a lot of people talk about when they've lost someone close is that a lot of times people are there for the first week or two or three, even maybe over the course of the first month, and then everybody just disappears.
They go back to their life.
they go back to their lives. And oftentimes it's when somebody is trying to put some sense of structure back to their lives, some bit of joy, that they really need the people who care about them to reach out. And it doesn't have to be change your life,
Mm-mm.
but just to check in and say, hey, do you have plans this weekend? Do you want to, I don't know, do people go to movies anymore? Or, like let's go out for a cup of coffee or whatever the thing is. But just to say, like, you don't have to spend all of this empty time processing this on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you making the point that they're incapable of making big decisions and the overwhelm and all that kind of stuff. The best thing, I had already quit teaching. I had been I was a PE teacher. I was out of the gym for a year. She's a PE teacher as well. The best thing I knew I could do was sign all my paperwork to be a substitute, because I knew in that next year, with all these firsts coming up, that if she woke up in the morning and she just couldn't do it, she could call me and I would go in, and she didn't need lesson plans. She didn't need anything.
Right.
So that's what I was able to do for her.
That's huge.
And then, I didn't want to engage her in text. So it wasn't, hey, how you doing? I would just send her heart emojis.
Yeah.
Just to let her know I was thinking of her. And if she wanted to engage, I was available.
Right.
So I did whatever I could do not to put pressure on her.
Yes. Yeah. That's so key for everybody. Just really understanding that because usually people are putting so much pressure on themselves.
Yes.
Right? About I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I should be doing something different, or when is this going to stop, or, what am I going to do? Like all of these kinds of things. And so anything that you toss in there is just kind of it's just more, it's more pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Judy said, to be able to step back and say, let me help you keep your life on the tracks while you find out what's going to be next.
Yeah. And it's funny because she's a real down to earth kind of person. And it's been 8 years now. And from that experience, what she went through, now she sends gift cards to restaurants. Because we were overwhelmed by all the food that came in. The outpouring of love and support for her and her family was amazing and beautiful. But then she had all this food that she felt terrible because she couldn't eat it all. So she was like, for me, I give gift cards to restaurants now because it gets you out of the house. It's not a dish you have to worry about getting back to whoever it belongs to. She goes through all these very logical things.
Yes. Yes. You don't have to find room in the refrigerator.
Exactly. So, that was a good note I learned from her. Right. Is, if you're looking to do something, send a random gift card to a restaurant.
Right.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move into greed.
Oh.
I like that look. Oh.
Yeah.
What's the difference between ambition and greed?
I'm seeing them as two threads that are kind of intertwined. You can't necessarily separate them, but it depends on what's your ambition for. Yeah, is your goal, are you inspired to create, an oasis for people to come and learn to heal, or a educational system where kids don't, learn how to manage their emotions so they don't feel overwhelmed and anxious and shut down and angry and all of the things that we all, dealt with. And I happen to be talking about our things right now because that's what's coming to mind. Like, that's what we're passionate about. So is that ambition? Yes. Do I want other people to lose so that I can experience this ambition? No. And that's a big difference because with greed is not focused on the experience. Greed is focused on what you're going to accumulate, what you're going to get.
Mhm.
It can be money,
Me?
it can be attention, it can be status, it can be power, it can be possessions, right? But you're going to get more. You're accumulating more. And normally, when greed is driving the bus, it's because we think when we have all of these things, then we're finally going to feel good in our skin.
Mhm. And it's never enough.
It's never enough. That's the fun thing. And you hear people say that in mainstream, that, and greed is one of the seven deadly sins for that reason, because it's never enough, no matter how much you have. Because when you're in greed, I think it's commonly accepted that the ego is driving. And when the ego is driving, it cannot be satisfied because the things that it wants, it thinks that if it has enough, it will finally be able to relax. That's not how peace comes.
Mhm.
Peace
No.
does, it's not an ego job. The ego can experience peace,
Mhm.
but it cannot drive the bus there.
Hmm. Which perfectly leads into this other question of how does greed often leave people feeling empty instead of fulfilled? Perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because we're accumulating all of these things because we think it's going to change how we feel being inside our own skin.
Mm-hmm.
And what Judy and I are always talking about, and by the way, people have been talking about for thousands of years in different ways,
Yes.
right? Is that the secret to all of this is to actually become comfortable in your skin now as you are, and your life will begin to improve on the outside as an expression of the truth that you're living in peace. When you're living in peace, your purpose becomes clear to you. When your purpose is clear to you and you're at peace, you're able to roll out that purpose, and then prosperity comes to you. And when I say prosperity, I'm not talking about money. Money could be part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm talking about the freedom to live the way you want to live in a purposeful life that includes all of the ingredients that matters to you, and you're going about through that process able to feel at peace in your own skin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Greed will never bring that to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, greed does not lead to a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience leads to prosperity.
I think you need to say that again.
Uh-oh.
Not all of it, but just that last snippet.
Yeah, greed will not improve your experience. And greed is all about the appearance.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how we perceive things, how we think about ourselves, how we think other people think about us. So it's all about the mind. And we're thinking, we've become convinced that if I create all of this appearance stuff and everybody knows that I'm whatever,
Mm-hmm.
fill in the blank, then finally I will be able to rest on my throne and know that, I am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you're never going to get to the top of King of the Mountain. 8 billion people out there doing their thing. It's just like it's relentless because no matter what level you achieve, you're going to realize there's another level to go after until eventually you run out of energy and time.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, wow, why did I spend my whole life trying to climb this ladder to nowhere
Mm-hmm.
instead of learning how to enjoy my life and the people that really matter to me?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. With greed,
Ladder to nowhere,
there's
sorry.
the ladder to nowhere. Yep. With greed, there's never enough.
Mm-mm.
There's never enough. There's never enough respect. There's never enough kindness. There's never enough this. There's never enough that. There's never enough money. There's never enough. You're
No,
never enough.
right.
And it's funny because I was a person that always thought people that had money, because, that's how the world runs. The people that have the money are the happiest. They don't have to worry about anything.
Mm.
Well, then I've learned that people that have money, they spend most of their time, not everyone, but a lot of them spend most of their time worrying about losing that money and how can they make more,
Sure.
you know?
Sure. And also, if you're in a society like ours, that tends to say that the purpose is to strive. Everybody's purpose is the same. We just strive to achieve and attain and acquire and have more,
Mm,
right? Then if we all buy into that purpose, then you never actually get to your heart's purpose,
mm.
like a purpose that's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Right?
We talked about this a little bit before we came live. A couple different times we came live, but about consumer.
Mm,
We've become consumers. We consume, consume, consume. Where okay, we've acquired all of these things. Now what?
right. Right. Yeah, it's true. And it's just more things that we have to take care of,
Mm-hmm.
more things that we have to manage. And I'm not, anti stuff.
No, we
It's
talked
just,
about that too.
yes, yes, exactly. I mean, that's part of the experience, right? It's just a matter of like, are they things that are adding value? Do you value them? Does
Mm-hmm.
it add value to your life? Or is this something that you think is actually going to make you feel better about being you?
Because it looks good. If we're still seeking the validation and approval of the external world, we have work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. When I drive by in my convertible, everybody's going to think fill in the blank. You
Mm-hmm.
know what? When you drive by in your convertible, nobody's thinking anything because they're paying attention to their own what's going on in their own lives. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I hate to break that to us, but it's true that for a fleeting second, they might have a thought,
Right.
right? But it's meaningless
Yep.
because you're the one that needs to actually feel good about being you. No outside attention is ever going to make you feel differently about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not fundamentally differently.
Nope. That's an inside job.
It is.
Absolutely. All right. Well, is there anything you would like to say to wrap us up?
Yeah, the only thing is years ago I did shaman training.
Mm.
And I did a 6 month apprenticeship, and then I did a vision quest on Bear Mountain in New York. It was all very interesting, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things we learned in shamanism was something that allergies, and I had a lot of seasonal allergies at the time, that allergies were all your G's: greed, guilt,
Mm.
and what was the other one? Greed, guilt, and eh, help.
Not grief, greed, guilt.
Grief, grief,
Yeah,
grief.
greed,
Yeah.
greed, grief.
I couldn't remember. I was thinking, I know it's not gaslighting. Yeah. Greed, guilt, and grief.
Mm-hmm.
That your unprocessed emotions from those three things were what led to allergies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that, back then I didn't know much. And I was kind of following the breadcrumbs, and I didn't even know what a shaman was when I decided to do this apprenticeship. It was really like, I was getting my intuitive nudges, and I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, it was very blind leading the blind feeling. But sure enough, I started healing those, some of what I had been carrying.
Mm-hmm.
My seasonal allergies went away. Like I used to take two different kinds of allergy pills every day
Oh, wow.
because from spring to fall, my eyes would just run with tears, and I was taking two different kinds every day for many years. I don't haven't taken any in a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh.
Hmm.
I think it leaves you something to think about.
Right? Yeah, get that stuck energy, all of that stagnant, stuck energy. If we process it and let it go from our bodies will run better
Mhm.
and they will be less sensitive to things that are happening in the outside environment.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of your emotions.
Mm-mm.
It's all part of this beautiful human experience.
It is. And I know like as Sagittarians, like we're fire signs, right? So our emotions can be intense. And I think they also burn pretty quickly. Like they're different. Like I had somebody point out to me, like a Pisces, for example, a water sign, can like really tumble around in the depths of their emotions and feel pretty, it can be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So also realize, like, not being afraid of your emotions, that you experience your way,
Yeah.
and understand that we don't all experience our emotions the same way, and our fear of our emotions will actually make them worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you notice that people are kind of seem to be kind of skipping along on the top, and for you it's like really heavy work, it's just a different kind of processing that you're doing, but you're not going to fall too far.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never go deeper than you're able to deal with in the moment, provided you just, stay present to it and don't scare yourself.
Yeah. And look for the lessons.
Yeah.
Look for the lessons because every emotion, every experience is teaching us something.
Yes.
Either what to do, what not to do. It's teaching us something.
Yes.
And when you can look for I know for me, when I started looking for the lessons in these difficult to dig into emotions, it gave me that observation deck perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it does get easier
Yeah.
because when you're not afraid of them, it's like the boogeyman. When you look under the bed and realize the boogeyman's not there,
Right.
okay, then it
Right.
takes the power out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So comfortable in the uncomfortable is what Chris and I always say.
Yes. Yes. And the first time someone said that to me, like, imagine how powerful you will be in your own skin, how powerful you will be when you become comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I thought, huh?
Yeah.
Right? And now we're like, oh, I
Now,
mean, really, it just means life can happen and you're okay.
yep, you roll with it. Let it flow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for another great week.
Yes. Thank you, Judy.
Great. G Week has been great.
It has. I have no idea if anybody is able to watch the video because of our multiple attempts, but yes, it's been lovely.
Yes, and it's been running live on my phone, so
So we're good.
we did it, and we'll get even better next week.
Yes, we will.
All right, you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week. What's the alphabet? GHH. Next week's going to be a hell of a week.
Maybe we'll talk horses.
There you go. All right, we'll see you later. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Judy. Bye.